It's Patrick Christie's Tonight. We're on GB News. Now, tomorrow's newspapers are flying in thick and fast, so I'll give you a heads up on those very, very shortly. But details are emerging of the horrifying number of foreign criminals claiming to be Christian in order to escape deportation. Indeed, a Bangladeshi man who served 12 years behind bars for murdering his wife successfully appealed against the Home Office's attempts to deport him because he claimed he was a Christian. A judge ruled that he would be at risk in his predominantly Muslim country in Bangladesh. I'm not quite sure why, but there we go. It comes just days after a church minister revealed that he's baptised hundreds of asylum seekers in the sea in South Wales. And if you're watching us on TV or online, there's a clip of it there. Only for half of them to completely disappear immediately afterwards. Well, who would have bet a tenner on that, hey? Speaking last week, a spokesperson for the Church of England said the Abdul Yazidi case, this is the Clapham acid attack, alleged. Abdul Yazidi case is clearly a shocking and distressing incident. Our thoughts and prayers are with all of those affected by it. As we've said, it is the role of the Home Office and not the Church to vet asylum seekers. However, Kelvin MacKenzie joins me now, former editor of The Sun. Well, it's becoming increasingly, I think, actually the Church of England's fault, isn't it? I mean, if they're baptising all of these people, they are part and parcel of this, and we've got situations where a Bangladeshi bloke who's murdered his wife still can't be deported. Why? Well, because he's now a Christian, which he's obviously not. Right.
So he's not a Christian, and even if he were a Christian, he has murdered his wife. He is Bangladeshi. I honestly don't care what happens to him back in his homeland, right? The man's a killer. Yep. Why should it be our responsibility to nurture him and find him work or do whatever it is for it? This is a problem for his own country, and it's his own country whose job it is to defend him. Unless they are a nation where, if they are a Muslim nation, where actually they think it's quite a good thing for Christians to be taken apart. And there are, of course, countries within the Middle East in which that view is very much predominant. So it's an absolute disgrace, this. The Church of England's role in all this, and not only the Church of England, other churches as well, true. Baptist churches and the like, right? Which is the one connected with Yazidi, right? No, they have a role, and they have chosen to say, we are all God's people. And then when this goes wrong, then they say, oh, it's the Home Office. I'm afraid they are led by the Archbishop of Canterbury, who stands up constantly and says, boat people, come on over. And on that basis, if they want preferment within the Church of England, then the way to get it is obviously to baptise people.
Should victims of asylum seekers who've converted to Christianity and then gone on to commit crimes, and where they've used their conversion to Christianity as the basis to stay in the country, be able to sue Justin Welby?
Well, that is a very good idea, and I think they should definitely. Well, the real question is, why does the church, whoever it is, whether it's this pastor, by the way, who shows he's basically in favour of doing this, why do they think it's a good idea to be duped in this way? They know full well that these people are not Christians, right? So why do they do it? What is in it for them? Is there some donation to the church being made? Does it make them feel better personally? These questions have to be answered. And I would be grateful if somebody would pass a law which basically said you have to actually face some strict... I mean, there was one judge pointed out to another judge that actually, how on earth could that person be converted when, in fact, he'd only been in the country 5 weeks and hadn't mentioned it on his arrival?
Yeah.
So in 5 weeks, he went from Islam to the good Lord.
And the conveyor belt is being exposed. So what we have now, and this is according to testimony of people within the church, was Muslim men at the back of the church with wads of cash in their pocket, a ready army of people waiting to be baptised, then photographs going immediately on Facebook, and then, shock horror, hours later, phone calls from immigration lawyers asking that vicar or that priest or whoever to go on record and vouch for that person being a Christian now. So you conveyor belt,
right? So the conveyor belt, is it led by lefty lawyers?
At the core, it's the lawyers, but it's everyone involved, isn't it? But at the core, it's the lawyers who then put pressure on a village priest or whatever to say, oh, do you know this person's going to get lynched if they go back to their country? How can you have that on their conscience? But Welby's got to stand up about this.
Yes, but he doesn't want to, does he? He doesn't want to, and it is probably the end of the Welbys running the Church of England. We need No wonder nobody goes to Church of England churches. Why would they go there? Nobody believes in anything except bringing lots of people illegally, essentially. It's quite wrong.
Well, the irony will be, obviously, if it all comes out, which it appears to be coming out, that the church has been complicit in helping a load of people who aren't Christian lie about being Christian to then stay in the country and reduce the number of people actually going to churches. I mean, they talk about self-defeating. I've got one more for you there, Kelvin, because Grant Shapps, our Defence Secretary, has hit out at the woke and extremist culture infiltrating the army after he was forced to hold crisis talks with army bosses over plans to relax security checks to increase diversity. So, Kelvin, we've got a threat of Russia, we've got the turmoil in the Middle East, and apparently we are now saying that diversity matters more than national defence. Yes,
it's madness, and we haven't got enough soldiers. By the way, we had 2 aircraft carriers which should have been heading out to a massive NATO, the biggest NATO get-together since the Cold War, and neither of them could leave Portsmouth Harbour because they both weren't working. One of them has now limped out. God knows what's going to happen when the first missile's fired. But there are significant issues within our military. Surely we have to believe that we are not going to face an issue where a major says to a subaltern, I'd like you to go over that hill. And the guy turns around and says, I tell you what, I've been thinking about that hill. That hill looks a bit large for me. Do you mind going over there and having a look first? I mean, once we get into all that, which of course is what happens within employment. When you employ people, you have to bend over backwards to make sure that they're going to do what you hope they're going to do. And if you start getting that in the middle of a war, then I'm afraid the outcome in Ukraine would be quite clear against a really vile enemy. And we face a significant issue going forward. We have to be, unfortunately, strong. And I don't like using the word woke, but everybody has to be on the same page on this.
Yeah, well, we realistically, we've played fast and loose with a lot of institutions when it comes to putting diversity, inclusion and equality at the top of the agenda, as opposed to saying what is your actual job and what function needs to be served here. I think the military is one area where absolutely that cannot happen, but it has happened.
Right, and it can't happen in the police force either, can it?
That's true. Well, it shouldn't really be happening anywhere, should it? Yeah. I mean, healthcare, actually, the more you think about it, the more it shouldn't really be happening anywhere, to be fair. But, Kelvin, thank you very much.